Welcome to this modern India lecture series. In this lecture, we are going to take chapter 2 and it is the part 4 of it, the chapter Indian States and Society in the 18th century. In this chapter, we are going to take the rise and fall of the Maratha kingdom, which I have included in the part 4. And in this lecture, we are going to see that how Maratha kingdom failed to become a pan-India empire. After the Mughal, it was the Maratha kingdom only who had the ability to become a pan-India empire. But due to the lack of unity among the Sardars were similar to the nobles of the Mughal only. So, due to the lack of unity, due to the lack of modernizations, this Maratha kingdom failed to become a pan-India empire. All those things we will see in this lecture. Further, in the part 5, we are going to see the social structure, educations of that period, how the female were getting educated or not, whether child marriage was there or not. All those things we will see in the next part 5 of this lecture. Moving ahead, I will request you to please subscribe this channel. This is a new channel. I really need your support. Further, I will request you to please go through this video till the end so that you will have a complete picture of it. So, the Maratha, how it emerged as one of the greatest empire during that time, and we will see that in the first Anglo-Maratha war, the British surrendered itself, and it was like peace deal was signed during that period, that treaty of Sarabai. In that no one won. So all those things we will see in this lecture, and in the coming chapter 3 also we will look into all these aspects. Okay, so Maratha became one of the most powerful states compared to the successive states of the Mughal. So it was like Maratha emerged as a rebellious group. Okay, so all the other states like your that Hyderabad, Mysore, Awadh, Bengal. So these three states, similar like other states, were also there. There is a smaller state, but these states were the successive one. Okay, these states were the successive one. But the Maratha was one of among the rebellious group, like the Sikhs, Maratha, Rajputs, all there the rebellious group. When it was compared with the successive states and this rebellious group, among the rebellious, Maratha was superior. But when we compared the Maratha with the successive states as well, Maratha emerged as a that superior one only. The reason behind it, they had a great tactics of war. They had a great tactics of guerrilla warfare. Even Shivaji was expert during that time, and the guerrilla warfare they had, they were expert during that period, because those regions were based upon the mountainous area, that valleys along were present in that area, and for the guerrilla warfare you should have a knowledge of the geography present of that location, and they were much aware about that geography location, and thus they were winning the wars in that area. Similarly, when they marched towards the Delhi, they started to lose the war because it was a plain land, and they did not there was no such expertise required during for the war in the plain land as they used to do in the guerrilla warfare. So that's why this became one of the main reason as well, that when they extended towards the north, they failed to do so because they were not that much expert in the fighting war in the plain land. Okay, so that was one of the reason. And further, they started to hit your Mughal, as Mughal lose the war, and when your Ahmad Shah Abdali and that Afghan invader started to invade Delhi, where Shah Jahan Peacock throne was captured, the Kohinoor diamond was taken away. So these two big incidents reveals that the Mughal is not that much strong right now. This centralized Mughal state that much is not strong right now, and thus Maratha did the ability. Maratha marched towards the north, and he started to capture all those regions, and similarly after the death of Aurangzeb from the 1707, he started to keep Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi of the Deccan regions, and for the other regions like Gujarat and all. Okay, so that's how Maratha emerged as a that pan-India empire, and it was during one period. So it was like British had a threat. Similarly, like the Mysore, British had a great threat with the Mysore from the South India, but they had a threat with the Maratha as well. Okay, so the Maratha kingdom was the most powerful compared to the successive states of the Mughal, who that like Awadh, your Hyderabad, your Bengal. Okay, so compared with these successive states, Maratha kingdom emerged more powerful later. Okay, and it was the most important challenge to the empire, that the Mughal empire, from the Maratha. And sometimes to evade war with the Maratha, the successive states tried to have a deal with the peace deal with them. Like we will see in the case of we have seen in the case of Awadh, they started to have a peace deal with the Maratha, so that Maratha will not attack them in the future, and further Maratha will protect them from the other attacks from the regions. Okay, and in that for that they have to pay certain amount to the Maratha. Further, they were taking the Chauth and Sir Deshmukhi from the regions. Okay, so this had the great power of the Maratha during that time. So Maratha kingdom produced numbers of brilliant commanders and statesmen, but Maratha Sardar lacked unity. So this statement, remember this statement, lacked unity. This was the only reason why Maratha did not. This was one of the only reason why Maratha did not become the pan India empire, which were actually necessary to become so however they waged war against the Mughals until they destroyed, but due to the lack of unity, due to the lack of control over the touch for the North India empire, North India, so they started to lose control and they failed to become a pan India empire. We will see in depth in the coming slide. Okay, so in this slide we are going to see Shahu, who was the Shivaji's grandson. Okay, Shivaji's grandson, the real Shivaji's grandson. So in 1689 he was captured by the Aurangzeb. Why he was captured? He was captured in the greediness of getting control over the empire of the some regions as well. And for that case, Aurangzeb captured Shahu, that was Shivaji's grandson, and his mother as well. And we have seen that Aurangzeb was very cruel. If we remember, Guru Tej Bahadur, who was killed because he did not accept the Islam, and that's why we have seen the 10th Guru, the last 10th Guru had waged war against it, and after that he was also killed. Then we have seen Bahadur, after his disciple Bahadur came and revolted war against the Mughals and all, and he was also later killed in around 1715 and all. Okay, so it was like Aurangzeb was cruel, but Aurangzeb treated both of them, this Shahu and his mother as well, with great respect. And the reason behind this great respect was that he wanted to capture the region, but after that he failed to do so, and he died in 1707. And as soon as he died, both were released. And as soon as they released, the tussle for the ruling on the Maratha kingdom emerged between Shahu and Tarabai. Tarabai was actually ruling that time. When he came out of the prison, he saw the tussle happened between those two. Okay, and we have seen that the Bahadur Shah did not recognize Tarabai as a ruling king, or the Shahu as a ruling king for the Maratha kingdom in the Mughal chapter, in the chapter 1. Okay, so Maratha Sardar started to take benefit of such rivalries. And let me complete. I forgot this. I missed this para. So Shahu grandson had been prisoner in the hands of Aurangzeb in 1689, but Aurangzeb had treated him and his mother with great dignity, honor, and consideration, paying full attention to the religious, caste, and all other needs, hoping perhaps to arrive a political agreement with Shahu. Later, Shahu released after the death of Aurangzeb, that happened in the 1707, and after that, as soon as he came out of the prison, the civil war broke out between the Shahu in the Satara and his aunt Tarabai, that is the Shivaji's brother's wife. So Tarabai in the Kolhapur, who carried the war against the Mughal. Tarabai was already carried the war against the Mughal from the 1700 only, and after that, for the for the throne, They had a fight, they had a war between the Shahu and the Tarabai under the name of Shivaji II. After the death, Tarabai was fighting on behalf of his son Shivaji II. Okay, as her husband was died, Rajaram. Okay. Maratha Sardar started to take benefit of such rivalries. Many bargained between the two power, and the several Sardars intrigued with the Mughal viceroys of the Deccan, and they wanted to increase their power in this time. So it was like, see what happened, as I've said, noble of Mughal is almost similar to Sardar of your this Maratha. Okay. Now what happened? A civil war broke out between the Shahu and the Tarabai, as the Shahu was released from the prison of Mughal. Now the Maratha Sardar took it as an opportunity. Yes, there is some disturbance. Now we can take the opportunity. We can earn the jamindaris from the revenues from the jamins, jagirs and all, and further we can also rule. So this disturbance caused the interest for the several Sardars. Okay, and they wanted to increase their power during that time. So under these two rivalries, a new system of Maratha government got evolved under the leadership of Balaji Vishwanath. When this rivalry was going on, under this leadership emerged as Balaji Vishwanath, the Peshwa under the King Sahu. So King Sahu released, and he had a war with whom? With the Tarabai. Okay, with the Tarabai he is waging war. Now his chief minister Balaji Vishwanath, this one, let me show you. This Balaji Vishwanath had emerged very well. He became a very good leadership, and later we will see that he had a control more than the king, as the noble had the more power than the king in the Mughal time. So similar things happened in the Maratha as well. Peshwa became the more powerful than the king. Okay. So this change began in the period of Peshwa domination. So this change, as this Balaji Vishwanath started to emerge as a great leader, and this change started to emerge as a similar like happened with the noble. So the period of Peshwa domination started in the Maratha history, in which the Maratha state was transformed into an empire. So now Maratha Empire, it was called, under the leadership of Balaji Vishwanath. Okay. Now Balaji Vishwanath, about the Balaji Vishwanath, we will see that he was the Peshwa, he was the chief minister under the Shahu, King Shahu. Okay. Now he started a life of petty revenue officer, and that how he rose in the Maratha. So it was like he was a small officer, and after that, through his diplomacy, through his great leadership, through his training to the troops, he raised into the empire. Okay, and he earns the loyalty of Shahu, and that's why most of the work, most of the decision was completely left upon him, and thus Peshwa's domination started. Why? He earned the loyalty of king, and king completely trusted upon him, and yes, the trust was true also, and thus he became the more powerful than the king. So he started the life as a petty revenue official, and then rose step by step. He rendered Shahu's loyalty and useful services in suppressing his enemies. He started to suppress all the enemies of Shahu, like Tarabai and all. He excelled in diplomacy, political diplomacy, and won over many big Maratha Sardars to the Shahu cause. He made many Maratha Sardars in the favor of Shahu only, as I've said in the previous slide only. So Sardar were in the in the chance to get their profit into this disturbance. Okay, so that's what he made various Sardars into their side. Okay, in 1713, Shahu made him the Peshwa, the chief minister. That Shahu, when he was released in 1707. Remember, when Shahu was released from the jail, he was released from the 1707. And 1730, he made Balaji Vishwanath, who was the official in his his court. He made him a Peshwa, the chief minister. Why? Because he earned his loyalty. Balaji Vishwanath took control over the Maratha Sardar and Maharashtra, excluding the part that was ruled by the Rajaram, that Tarabai regions, the fight that was happening in Tarabai. So he excluded that part where she was ruling. Rest of the part he took the control over it. He concentrated the power in his office, not to the king office. Further, his son, after that, Balaji Vishwanath, his son will come, who is known as the Baji Rao, made the Peshwa the functional head of the Maratha Empire. After that, when he will die, so Baji Rao became the another Peshwa, and this office will work under him, would work under him. So Balaji Vishwanath took advantage of the internal conflict of the Mughal officials. So how he raised his interest from the Mughal fights. Okay, so he started to take advantage. In the Mughal only there was lots of disturbance for the fights. If we see Sayyid brothers killed many of the king. So those kind of disturbance was there. So Balaji took advantage of the internal conflict of the Mughal to increase the Maratha power. He had influenced noble Zulfikar. After noble Zulfikar, we will see that Sayyid brothers and all will come. So King Jahandar Shah is the son of Bahadur Shah. After Bahadur Shah, King Jahandar Shah came. Okay, so noble he induced noble Zulfikar, who was noble Zulfikar Khan is the noble, and the king was the Jahandar Shah. He made them to grant Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi of the Deccan region. See his diplomacy. Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi means what? The revenue that will be collected from the region, from the land, from the crops and all, by selling and all. So 10-25% and 10% extra. So that kind of things he will get. Okay, so that through the diplomacy he made noble Zulfikar Khan and the King Jahandar Shah to give that Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi of the few of the Deccan region. Okay, but there was only one condition where the collection will be made by only Mughal officials. Okay, and after that we will see this was also removed. The collection was done by Maratha only. Okay, so in the end a pact was signed with Sayyid brothers. After that, earlier it was signed with the noble Zulfikar Khan. Then after they had the sign same pact, similar pact for the collection of Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi with Sayyid brothers, and in that deal it was like, now I will collect that Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi. Mughal officials will not be able to collect. And further they paid some amount to keep standing soldiers in the Deccan, which will protect them from certain attacks and all. Okay, so in the end a pact was signed with the Sayyid brothers. All the territory found by the Shivaji's kingdom were restored to Shahu, who was assigned the Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi of that 6 provinces of the Deccan. Okay, of the Deccan region only, and collected by themselves, unlike during Zulfikar Khan. So it was like during Zulfikar Khan it was like Mughal officials will collect the money and it will give it to you. But now it is not like that. I will collect the money. I will collect the money myself. Okay, so earlier it was not like that during the case of Zulfikar Khan. So in return, so he got so many things. So what in return he is going to pay? So in return he agreed to pay 15,000 cavalrymen for the Deccan to prevent any kind of rebellious or plunder. So at that time there was a plunder going on from the Afghan invader Nadir Shah, I think, yes, the name is Nadir Shah, and Ahmad Shah Abdali. Okay, so there was invasion going in the Delhi. So he said like, I will protect you if such invasion happened. Okay, in that case, in the return of those things, okay, and some amount he also paid. I think so he no amount was paid. He set up 15,000 cavalry in the Deccan, a standing army, a standing military. So then he realized the weakness of Delhi and took an ambition of the expansion in the north. So as soon as he saw, array, this Maratha is agreed for my standing army. So it means like Maratha did not have that capability of army. Their army is not, the military is not that strong. And he came to know, yes, plunder is going on in Delhi. So he realized Maratha is not that strong that we used to assume them. And thus he started to extend its empire till Delhi. Okay, this happened. He extended expansion for the north. So Maratha Sardar became jealous of a strong and autonomous central power, and they knew it is the weak only. So to have an autonomous control, Maratha Sardar, that was done by the Peshwa. Now it is the concept of now here we are talking about the Sardar. What Sardars were thinking, other Sardars that was not in the rule. Okay, so the Maratha Sardar became jealous of the king. King is getting that much of power in the Delhi, in the Deccan regions and all. So now they wanted some benefit in those things. Okay, so to have an autonomous control, Maratha Sardar captured the distant areas of the Mughal Empire. So what Maratha Sardar started to? They started to capture the region far from the far from the Mughal Empire. Okay, far from the Mughal Empire. Why Mughal Empire? Far from the, even they will have a little bit difficult to attack on them. So that's why to evade such attack, because they are not being backed by the Peshwa also. So they are doing in themselves, in the private only, in the individual interest. So that's why they started to capture the regions that are far from the Mughal Empire. Okay, to have an autonomous control with their private army. So this was controlled not by the central, remember. So this was like from their personal side, individually. These things was done by them individually. There was no government control. There was no Peshwa's order. No Peshwa order. They were doing by their own, for their own interest. As they knew that the Peshwa is getting so much powerful, they are getting central control. So they started to capture the regions that was far from the Mughal Empire, the central Mughal authority. Okay, so this was not controlled by the central authority Peshwa. Thus, this disunity did not allow Maratha kingdom to be a pan-India empire. This kind of mindset, there was no nationalism kind of feeling, there was no patriotism kind of feeling between the people, okay, among the people, and thus this made disunity among the Mughal the Maratha kingdom, and thus they failed to become a pan-India empire. Further, during the process of conquest, these Sardars often clashed with one another only. If the central authority, that is the Maratha kingdom, tried to control them too strictly, they were not thinking twice to join the hand with the enemies. And the enemies will be who? Enemies will be your Mughal, your Nizam. Nizam is the successor of Mughal only, or this Britishers. Okay, they did not think twice if Nizam became too strict. So it was like own family member was hurting us, because due to the lack of feeling of patriotism and all. Okay, and thus they failed to become a pan-India empire. So it was all about the Balaji Vishwanath. Now his son was who? Bajirao I. He will control after that. Okay, so after Balaji Vishwanath, Bajirao I will come. So it is Bajirao I. Now, Balaji Vishwanath died in 1720. He was released from the jail in 1707, and after that in 1730 he made Shahu as his chief minister, and after that in the 1720 he died. Okay, that is one thing. He was succeeded as Peshwa. No, sorry, I made a mistake here. Shahu was released from the jail in the 1707, and he made Balaji Vishwanath as his Peshwa, and he died in the 1720, and after that his son succeeded him, that is the Bajirao I. Okay, he was succeeded as a Peshwa only. So now the Peshwa became so powerful, it became hereditary now. So Peshwa by his 20-year-old son Bajirao I. So he was bold, ambitious and clever statesman. So he was also a kind of energetic person. Okay, and he was similarly expert in fighting guerrilla warfare like Shivaji. Okay, guerrilla warfare means what? Guerrilla warfare can be fought only if you know the geographical region. So that's why if we see Naxalites used to be expert in fighting guerrilla warfare. So our military force sometimes killed by them because they were not aware of the geographical region during that time. Now we have a GPS and all. Now we know that, now we can see the geographical region, but during that time it was nothing GPS and all. So thus they were expert in guerrilla warfare. That they know the terrains, they know the mountain regions, they know the valleys, they know how to go to that place and come back from hiding from those regions. So thus he was expert in fighting the guerrilla warfare like Shivaji. Okay. So the greatest exponent of guerrilla tactics after Shivaji, they tried to capture lots of Mughal areas. The initiation by taken by the Chauth of the area and the latter subsiding the area into the Maratha kingdom. By 1740 he also died, and by his death till now he had captured Malwa, Gujarat and the parts of Bundelkhand and all, and he captured all those regions. Okay, so they started to get a touch for the north. All his life he tried to contain the Nizam's power, that is the Hyderabad and all. But due to various conspiracy, because of his own men, because of the Sardars and all, they failed to do, because of the disunity and all. Even if it becomes strict for them, these Sardar used to join hands with Mughal officials and all. Okay. So he compelled to get Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi of the Deccan provinces, but he failed to take the control for the Nizam, and he raised campaign against the series of the Janjira and the Portuguese, where he captured the mainland and other possession of the west coast of the respectively. Okay, so these regions and all. Okay, he died in 1740, and in the short period of 20 years he gave a peace to the Maratha. He changed a lot Maratha kingdom. Maratha kingdom was not like that earlier one. They had a control over the north. They was in the path to become a great empire like the Mughal. It had been transferred into an empire expanding to the north, but he failed to give attention on the administration of the new territories. Yes, it happened similar with the Mughals also, and it happened with the Maratha also. They failed to control that great empire. Their administration was not that much strong that they should have a control from the central to that part of the country. Okay, so he failed to give the attention to the administration of the new territories. The main concern was the collection of the revenues by the successful Sardars. Sardars were not paying attention for the maintenance of the army and all through the collection that they were going to make. So they were using all those things for their individual purpose, for their own interest. And similar thing we have seen with the nobles also. Noble in the Mughal started to collect the tax, and they were not expending those amount in maintaining military. They started to use those revenues for their self consumption. Okay, you know that handwriting part. Okay, they were starting to use those things for self consumption. Similar thing happened with the Sardar also. Sardar also started to use those money for their self consumption. Okay, so now after Bajirao, who was the first, it was like Balaji Vishwanath. First it was Balaji Vishwanath, then it is Bajirao one, his son. He be the Peshwa. We are not talking about the king, because the Peshwa is the great power, similar like the noble, like the Farrukh Siyar and all in the Mughals. Okay, now Balaji Bajirao. Remember again, Balaji Vishwanath, Bajirao, then Balaji Bajirao. Okay, so Bajirao's 18-year-old son Bajirao, Nana Sahib, was the Peshwa from 1740 to 1761. He died in the 1740, and he started to control for the region from the 1740 to 1761. That is around 21 years. He was similar to his father, energetic, bold. He started to control for the region. Okay, he had a fight, control for the Afghanistan and all. He had a fight with those quarrels with those regions as well. Okay, so King Shahi died in the 1749, and by his will he left the management of his state affairs. That after that King Shahu, that King Shahi came, and the last one, and he left those things under the Peshwa only. He also realized that yes, Peshwa has the great power. Okay, so Peshwa's office already become the hereditary, as we have seen Balaji Vishwanath, Bajirao. So it has already become hereditary and de facto ruler of the state. So he shifted the headquarters to Pune, and he followed the footstep of his father, who Balaji Bajirao. He followed the footstep of Bajirao one for the extension of the empire. As I've seen, he had started to extend the empire for the north. Okay, he has started to extend the empire for the north. Similarly, he followed the same footstep. He has started to expand its empire in the north. Okay, for the different locations like the Malwa, Gujarat and Bundelkhand was already consolidated. Okay, it was already consolidated, it was already captured. Now Bengal started to be repeatedly invaded from the 1751. He ruled till 1761. In 1751 he tried to invade the Bengal. After that, Bengal gave the part of the Odisha to Balaji Bajira, to the Maratha. And in the south as well, Mysore and the minor provinces were started to force to pay tribute. Okay, so we'll see after that Hyder Ali and the Tipu Sultan will come in the another lecture. Okay, so he forced those things to pay the tribute and all for the region. So in that we will see that Maratha, Mysore and Nizam all consolidated together, and they had a fight with the British. In that Treaty of Sarabai, some treaty was signed where the no one won, as the British had another fight in the America with the French, and they also lost. So British literally lost that war, that we have seen the Anglo-Maratha war and all. Okay, so Bengal was repeatedly in the 1751. Bengal Nawab had to cede Odisha, and in the south Mysore and the other provinces were forced to pay tribute. Further, in 1760, Nizam of Hyderabad was defeated at Udgir and compelled to give annual revenue of rupees 62 lakh. Maratha became the power behind the Mughal in the north. As you had said, as he said to Mughal, that I will back you from any Afghan invaders. If anything, even invaders happen, like that happened with another kings of Afghanistan and used from the Bangash Pathans and all, they started to attack for the region. So if this such kind of situation happen, I will be there to protect Mughal. Okay, so Maratha became the power behind the Mughal in the north. See how it becoming. It was a rebellious state, and now he is becoming the power behind the Mughal. He is emerging as a strong one, superior one. So they seized Punjab and other provinces and overthrown the agent of Ahmad Shah Abdali, and which made conflict with the doughty warrior of the king of Afghanistan, who once again marched into India, settled account with the Maratha power. Okay. Now the third battle of Panipat. This battle nobody won, and this battle decided who is going to rule India. No, this battle decided who is not going to rule India. That was the importance of this third battle of Panipat. Okay. Now, so a major conflict started in the north, as I said, in Ahmad Shah Abdali and Marathas, as Maratha promised to protect Mughal from any kind of invasion and all. Okay, so Ahmad Shah Abdali formed an alliance with the Najib-ud-Dawla of Rohilkhand, present in the Afghan region only, Shuja-ud-Dawla of Awadh, and suffered at the hand of Maratha Sardar. So see what happened. This Ahmad Shah Abdali joined hand with the Rohilkhand and the Awadh to attack Maratha. Okay, they started to interfere in the internal affair of the Rajputana state and levied huge fine on the tributes upon them. Who? Maratha. This here they means Maratha. So Maratha started to attack for the Rajput regions because they started to follow the policy. This Balaji Bajirao following his father's principle only to extend towards the north. So similarly, he was attacking for the Rajput regions, they taking the revenues and all. So they started to show their claim on Awadh later on. After that, they started to show claim that now Awadh will be we will capture Awadh as well. So that's why Awadh joined hand with this Afghan, but there was no such mindset. But due to that force and all, Awadh joined hand with them. Their actions in the Punjab made the Sikh angry. Similarly, Jat chiefs were angry upon them because of the collection of tax and all. So at the end, Maratha were alone. All the groups collided together. Here the one Maratha was there, and thus it was like that. Yes, Maratha is going to lose only. Okay. So at the end, Maratha were among the enemies, and among them also there were constant disruption going on. Okay. So the third battle happened between Maratha and Afghan leaders. Maratha and Afghan leaders, where several other Indian rulers were combined, were joined, were grouped together, and it happened in 1761. So it's very simple. Who is going to lose the war? Maratha. So Maratha lost the war and were plundered by various other rulers like Jharkhand. So the plunder happened in the north only, not for the Maharashtra region and all. So this plunder by the other rulers like Jats, Ahirs, Gujars of Panipat, and so they plundered the Maratha, whatever the things were present in the north region. The Maratha lost the cream fighter. In that fight, it was said that the great fighter of the Maratha were killed. Okay, so they lost their cream fighter. Maratha was harmed very badly, and this gave the chance to consolidate the power of East India Company in the Bengal and the South India. So this disturbance was giving a chance of the East India Company to settle in the Bengal, and we will see that this thing was benefited to East India Company, and they get a great control. They got good full control over the Bengal, and that's what after they emerged, they marched for the Mysore part. And the war happened in that region as well, where the Tipu Sultan died and Hyder Ali was there. We will talk those things in the next chapter. Okay, so this gave the chance to consolidate the power of East India Company in the Bengal and South. And in this fight, even Afghan did not benefit from their victory. Yes, it was true. Afghan won. Afghan won means what? Afghan and the alliance with the Indian rulers. It was not alone Afghan. Okay, even after the winning of the Afghan did not get any land and all, because those Indian rulers are not going to give their land to you. Okay, they fought for their own cause. The enemy was same, that's why they grouped together. Problem was different. They are not going to give their land if they won. It was that they have the same enemy, Maratha. They grouped together, they fought, and they won. Okay, and if that, Afghan did not get anything. So in this, even Afghan did not benefit from their victory. They could not even hold Punjab, Sikhs and all. Why they will give you Punjab? They were fighting for their own cause. In fact, third battle of Panipat did not decide who is going to rule India, but it decided who is not going to rule India. Okay, so thus it cleared the rise of the British power in India. Okay, now First Anglo-Maratha War. First Anglo-Maratha War. This Maratha War was ended with a treaty of Sarabai. Let me confirm. There was a treaty of Sarabai. First Anglo-Maratha was Salbai. Sorry, I am repeating again and again. It was treaty of Salbai. Okay, and in that treaty, it gave 20 years of peace and all, but nobody won, which did not in victory for either side. Neither the British won nor this group together won. What are the group? I will tell you. Okay, so the 17-year-old Madhav Rao, son of Balaji Baji Rao. Okay, so now again this heredity. Now the Madhav Rao will come, who is the son of this. Complete hereditary is going on. No one is coming between that. The son of Balaji Baji Rao became the Peshwa in 1761, and he was a talented soldier and statesman. He restored the lost fortune of Maratha Empire within 7 years. Whatever they lost for the northern part, where they lost the third battle of Panipat, he restored all those things. He defeated Nizam, compelled Hyder Ali of Mysore, the great ruler, Hyder Ali, the father of Tipu Sultan. He compelled Hyder Ali of Mysore to pay tribute and gain control over the northern India by defeating Rohillas. This Afghan thing, this Afghan grouping. Okay, Rohillas, Rajput estates, and the Jat chiefs. Okay, he controlled all those regions. Maratha brought back the Shah Alam to Delhi. He settled the Shah Alam to Delhi, and who now became the pensioner at that time. That the Mughal pensioner. He became the Mughal to be the pensioner. Thus, it appeared as if Maratha ascendancy in the north had been recovered. He made Maratha thing to be recovered instead. So as they lost in the Panipat, third battle of Panipat, Madhav Rao, the son of Balaji Baji Rao, how it is traveling. See how this heredity is going on. Balaji Vishwanath, Baji Rao, then Balaji Baji Rao, then this one Madhav Rao. Okay, after that Madhav Rao will come, became the Peshwa in the 26th when he became. Okay, Thus it appeared as the Maratha in the north. In okay, he recovered the north. Okay, after the death of Madhav Rao in 1772, again Maratha Empire was in confusion for the throne. Who is going to rule? Okay, so that's what here happened. Like first Anglo-Maratha war happened, where their own people joined hand with the British, and the war was consolidated against them. Okay, so again Maratha Empire was in confusion. There was a struggle between the Raghunath Rao. Who is Raghunath Rao? Younger brother of Balaji Bajirao. See, Madhav Rao was the son of Balaji Bajirao, and his younger brother. It means the son of Bajirao. Okay, the son of Bajirao, and the brother of Balaji Bajirao. And brother of Balaji Bajirao was wanted to sit on the throne, as Madhav Rao also died, the son of Balaji Bajirao. So he said like, I will sit on the throne, but this did not happen. Okay, so the struggle happened between the Raghunath Rao, the younger brother of Balaji Bajirao, and Narayan Rao. Narayan Rao, younger brother of Madhav Rao. Okay, so it was like the son of this one, the son of Madhav Rao. This Madhav Rao who died, this one Madhav Rao's brother. Okay, I'm also getting confused. Okay, wait, let me clear everything. Let me clear it again. Raghunath Rao, younger brother of Balaji Bajirao. Okay, and like his uncle, Madhav Rao's uncle. Okay, and Narayan Rao, younger brother of Madhav Rao. So he was his brother only. And so the fight happened between the brother and the uncle. So it was like in the relation it will become the son only, son. Okay, so it was, the fight was between the uncle and the son. Okay, so the empire was succeeded by the posthumous son Savai Madhav Rao. Posthumous son, that it was hired, that was taken from someone else, so it was not by the birth. So the empire was succeeded by the posthumous son Savai Madhav Rao. Out of frustration, Raghunath Rao ran away and he joined hand with the British. And as soon as he joined, the clash of power happened, and it led to the First Anglo-Maratha War, and it ended around 1784. Okay, where nobody won, neither British nor this side. And in the First Anglo-Maratha War, they had a grouping where Nizam also came together, Maratha also came together, and Mysore also came together. Okay, and then also they lost the war. Okay, so I will show you that part as well. Let me go to this. Okay, so it was like all the Maratha chiefs were united in the Peshwa and the chief minister Nana Fadnavis. Southern power was also against the British. Hyder Ali and Nizam chose this moment to declare war against the company, that the British company. Thus British were surrounded by the powerful combination of the Maratha, Mysore and the Hyderabad, and abroad British were losing the fights in the America. So in America also there was, the fight was going on. Okay, so however British India had energetic and experienced Governor General Warren Hastings. There is separate section for the Warren Hastings. He was a great diplomat as well. He was a great governor. So abroad he made a peace deal. He acted with the firm resolve and the determination. No one won, neither side won, and peace deal was concluded in the 1782. When the war was declared in the 1772, and in the 1782 he made a peace deal with that group, that Treaty of Salbai, which status quo was maintained like as the earlier. The situation will be the same. Okay, so it saved the British from the combined position of the Indian power. This was known as the First Anglo-Maratha War, which did not end victory and for the either side, and it gave 20 years of peace to the Maratha. Like it gave the 20-year peace to British from the Maratha. Okay, and Maratha emerged as the strongest power of the day. And the Maratha had continued the mutual, but within the Sardar there was that quarrel was going on. But in that fight, all were united, and that's why they emerged as the victorious. And the Treaty of Salbai, and after that again there is some conspiracy happened where the British exert pressure on the Mysore, and the Maratha exert pressure on the Mysore, as the Maratha promised to help them. after that, that I will recover you from the territories of the Hyder Ali, and in that who is going to do all those things, that is Raghunath Rao only, that just now I have talked about. Okay, so he will be included and he will join hand with the British and all, and those things we will see that Hyder Ali did not start, and there was some lose happened, some territory loosed and all. Okay, so that section we will see in the chapter 3. Okay, so this was all happened for the this first Anglo-Maratha war that nobody won at that time. Okay, Maratha dream of becoming pan-India empire, and that failed. Why? In the next slide we will have the reason. Okay, so at Pune there constant intrigue between the supporters of Savai Madhavrao, the posthumous son of the Madhavrao, headed by the Nana Fadnavis, and the partisans of the Raghunath Rao, who will join hand with the British and all. Okay, so Maratha Sardar, who were trying to rule in the North India, followed the same pattern of the Mughal administration and possessed their separate armies, the private armies. They had the private armies, no control of the central Mughal authority, and thus this was one of the disunity. This was one of the main reasons for the for not becoming Maratha as a pan-India empire. Among the Maratha rulers in the north, Mahadji Scindia was the most important. He organized a powerful European-style army consisting equally Hindu, Muslim soldiers with the help of French and the Portuguese officers and the gunners. He established control over the Shah Alam, who sat on the throne in the Delhi. Back, he talked in the slide, but he went against the Nana Fadnavis from the central Maratha ruler, and thus and he was beaten as the Holkar of the Indore as well. So he died in the 1794, and due to lack of unity. So see, he had great tactics. He had the training of Europeans well, so he had the ability to fight with the British. Lack of disunity, failed to do so. So in that example, lack of disunity, we will be able to give this example. This is a great example where the Mahadji Scindia was the most important, that came in that started the rule in the north, and he has a great power of the European style, and he established control of the Shah Alam in the Delhi. He was sitting in the Delhi as he had control over those regions as well, but he did not accept the control walking under the Nana Fadnavis, and thus Maratha failed to do so. Disunity. Mahadji and the Nana Fadnavis died in the 1800, and the last of the great, they were only last of the great soldiers of the Maratha statesmen who raised the Maratha power in the height of the 18th century. They were the last great ruler for the 18th century who raised the Maratha at its peak. Okay, so Savai Madhavrao, posthumous son, died in the 1795 and was succeeded by utterly worthless Baji Rao II. He was of no use. Okay, he was the son of Raghunath Rao. That's what here Raghunath Rao that fight paid off. He joined hand with the British, and now his son sat on the throne, Baji Rao II, which was worthless, not good. He was not strong. He was very bad in administration and all. So after that, British decided to put on the end to the Maratha challenge to the supremacy of the India. They divided various Sardars through clever diplomacy. That we will see. That's what I was discussing in that word page in the next slide. So due to that treaty of Treaty of Salbai. Due to the Treaty of Salbai, they divided among the Marathas only. Okay, and now they started to remove the Maratha from this supremacy only. So that British succeeded in doing so. Okay, so they divided various Sardar through clever diplomacy, and what was the diplomacy, that we will talk about in the chapter 3. Okay, so they overpowered few of the Sardar to create difference in the separate battles during the second Maratha war. That second Anglo-Maratha war happened in the 1893-1805, and third Maratha war happened in 1816-1819. Okay, so they lost it. So Peshwas were extinguished. Thus Maratha dream of controlling the Mughal empire and establishing their own empire over the large part of the country could not be succeeded, and they failed to become a pan-India empire. And the reason behind it, these. One of the main reason, disunity. Second reason, they followed the same social order of the Mughal empire. Jagirdari, female structure, educations and all, we will see in the next part. Maratha chief Sardar were similar to the Mughal nobles. They were using all those revenues for their own self-consumption. They were not spending that amount in the maintaining the militaries and all. Even they had a private armies, private military, private forces. They had Saranjami system similar to the Jagirdari system. Maratha Sardars were even less disciplined with the nobles. They always had a quarrel between them. Even the Mughal nobles, it was not like that much thing, but they were completely indisciplined. They always had a quarrel. They started to take control of the north, and the mindset was that for those Sardars, it was like, let us suppose, if the Sardar was not supported by the central Maratha kingdom, the Peshwa, then they were not thinking to join hand with the other enemies. They quickly joined the hand with the other enemies, like the Nizam, like the Mughal, like the British. They suddenly join hand with their enemies. So that's what also one of the men does. It's not like they will have a talk. Let's clear this thing through the peace deal. No, they simply join hand with the enemies, and they don't know like these enemies are your enemy only. Okay. So the Maratha Sardar were even indisciplined in the Mughal. They lacked the complete unity. They failed to encourage the science and technology to make much interest in the trade and industry. That is true. The revenue system was similar to the Mughal administration, where they were generating revenue through helpless peasantry. Peasantry condition was very poor, and yes, this condition will be worst during the British time. They will face the one of the historical worst famine. We will see in the next chapter. They failed to inspire the people with a high degree of loyalty, where the Mughals somehow succeeded. Their people were somehow loyal, but in the case of Maratha, it was not like that. The only one way of Maratha would be able to control over the British by making the state modern, even that they failed to do so, and thus they lose the chance to become the pan-India empire. And that's all in this slide, in this lecture. I hope you have liked this. Please like and subscribe. This is a new channel. I really need your support. Further, if you have any doubt, please ping me on my Twitter handle. Thank you.